The Fujifilm X-M5 has taken the photo world by storm. A small and compact camera with genuinely high-end features, with a few compromises to save on cost. But the X-M5 has been labeled as a content creator's camera. And if you're a person who likes to shoot video and you want to maximize the potential of the video on your X-M5, then in this video I will show you my 4 custom settings to shoot video on the go. Now the X-M5 has 4 custom settings that you can easily switch to by turning the dial, and then you're ready to shoot. And I will be taking you through my custom C1 to C4 to help you maximize the potential of video that you can take with this small but powerful camera. Now do note that these are not set in stone. You can change the custom dials the way that you want, but this is personally how I have things set up to shoot on the go. C1 to C4, each for a specific situation that will help you get the most out of this camera. Now, first things first, before everything else, we're gonna go through the settings on the X-M5 to show you how you can customize the C1 to C4 in the first place. Now for step 1, what you wanna do is hit the menu button on your X-M5 and then go to the IQ and go all the way to page 4 of the IQ. You will see custom mode settings, and this is where you can set your C1 to C4 to either be dedicated to video or to photo. Now in this video, we are working on our video settings, so we're gonna set C1 to C4 to be video. And once that's done, you're gonna want to switch your dial to C1, and now you're ready to customize your first video setting. Now for the first situation, situation 1, C1 is going to be for my cinematic and talking head video. So when I am vlogging outside, I want to shoot video that is in 4K 24 to get the most natural motion blur. But sometimes as well, if I do want to get some nice cinematic footage, I do want that nice 4K 24 look, because 24 frames per second is what most movies are shot on and is what looks most natural to the eye. So if you do find yourself in a situation where you want to do some talking head, or you want to get some nice footage around the city or around the area that you're in, where you do not have to slow-mo that footage, then C1 will be your 4K 24 setting. Now, once you have turned your dial to C1, you're gonna want to hit your menu button, go to your video settings, and go down to page 3 of 4 to edit and save custom setting. Here is where you can change your C1, rename it, and change all the settings. That way, when you switch to C1, everything is ready for you to straight go and just shoot. In your edit and save custom setting, go to your C1, and now you have edit and check. Once you go to your edit, here's where you want to change a few things. Your shooting mode has to be in manual. You're not shooting in aperture priority or any type of other priority. So you want to be in manual control at all times. Because we're shooting in 4K 24, your shutter speed will be 1 over double your frame rate, so it will be 1 over 50. After that, you want to go to your video settings, set your movie mode to 4K 24 or 4K 16:9 and 23.98. Go down to your media recording setting and put your SD into H.265 422, which is the 10-bit, and 200 megabits per second, which is the highest you can do on the X-M5, which doesn't sound amazing, but for a small camera for the price, this is actually more than you need. Now go down and check your F-Log and HLG recording. You want to make sure that you are recording in F-Log 2, which is the newest F-Log that Fujifilm has, except for F-Log 2C. But F-Log 2 gives you 14 stops of dynamic range, and even though it does start at ISO 1250, it is still very good, and you can barely notice any grain or noise. Now here is where a few things can be changed based onto your liking. I have my IS mode, which is the image stabilization, set to off, and I can turn it on whenever I need to, just because I do not like the wobbling on the corners, and if I do need some image stabilization, I will just turn it on. The IS mode boost, I have it to on, which is always suitable if you're shooting static shots, which is kind of the thing that I do the most. I do a lot of static handheld shooting where I find a nice composition or a nice frame. But if you want to do a lot of panning, a lot of whipping, then you want to set this to off. The ISO is set to 1250 by default, which is the lowest, and you can always change it based to your liking and depending on your shooting conditions. And movie optimized control is set to on, because I do like to change the aperture through the dials instead of using the aperture on the lens itself, which can cause clicking. The recording frame indicator is always on for me because I like to know when I'm recording, and sometimes I do record by mistake, and this is a great indicator to know that you are recording. When it comes to your white balance, that will be dependent on if you are indoors or outdoors or based on your surroundings or your environment. And I do have it to auto, and I will just change it accordingly depending on where I am. Now here's where you can get a bit creative. You can also decrease the sharpness of your video footage if you want to get that nice and soft look that people always look for when shooting cinematic video. When it comes to autofocus, I usually have the focus mode to autofocus continuous because I'm usually either doing talking head and I do want it to detect my face. But the autofocus mode for me is either multi, wide tracking, or area, also based on what you are looking for. Multi is very handy when you don't have a specific thing that you want to focus on. The camera will do its best to detect what you are trying to shoot, and it will basically focus on that. Wide and area are actually very good when you're doing a lot of talking head, because the area you can just set it to the middle of your camera and then you can basically get the focus on yourself at all times. And because I use the C1 a lot for talking head, I do have the face detection on. But do know that you can turn it off if you need to, if you are showing a product or something that is not someone's face or someone's eye and you want the camera to focus on a certain object. Now when it comes to the microphone settings, because I use the 4K 24 for a lot of talking head, I do drop the external mic adjustment to around -20 to -27 dBs, and I kind of change the gain on the microphone itself. But if you are shooting without a microphone, especially on the X-M5 because it has the new microphones on top, I usually set it to front and back priority, but definitely I do change those based on my needs. If I am doing a talking head, I will set it to front because I do want the audio to come just from the front where I am recording. And if I need to get someone's audio as well, where I'm doing a back and forth with someone, I do want it to be to back and front priority. Now, once you are done with your settings, you want to hit the back button and you want to save your current settings and also edit the custom name to whatever you want it to be. Now, C2 is my B-roll situation. It's the situation where you need a bit of extra footage, you need to be stable, and you want to kind of slow it down in post so you can get a nice slow motion look on either a subject that you're trying to focus on or an object that you're trying to showcase. Now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to turn our dial to C2, and once you're in C2, you want to go to your video settings, edit and save custom setting, and then select C2 and go to the right, and here's where you can edit your custom settings. Now, because we are shooting in 60 frames per second, our shutter speed will be 1 over double the frame rate, which is 1 over 120. Same thing, we will go back to our video settings. The movie mode will be 4K 60, and the media recording setting will be the exact same as C1, which is H.265, 422, and 200 megabits per second. Now at this point, all the other settings are pretty much the exact same, unless there's something specific that I need to change. But if you want to go through them again, the white balance is set to auto, the sharpness is either 0 or -2, -3 based on the look that you want to get. And you want to make sure that your image stabilization is pretty much on if you want to, just because you want to get that nice and stable footage in 4K 60, which then you can slow down to around 40% in post to get nice slow motion. Now, once you are done with your second situation, which is the B-roll situation, you want to do the same thing. You want to save your settings and then turn your dial to C3, and now you're ready to customize your C3 settings. Now, C3 is very special because C3 is neither 4K 24 nor 4K 60. It is actually something completely different. Because the X-M5 does shoot in open gate and 6.2K, this is what C3 is. It is shooting 6.2K open gate. You might ask, why would I want to shoot in 6.2K and waste my memory? Well, pretty much to say it frankly, when you're shooting in 6.2K open gate, you have the ability to reframe a lot. And you can shoot video for both vertical and horizontal. And that's why situation 3, which is C3, is my vertical video plus horizontal video, or if I'm shooting for both. So if I am shooting a video that I know I want to reframe and resize for vertical, then I will use my C3, which is 6.2K open gate. Now you want to do the same thing. You want to go to your movie settings, you want to go to your edit custom settings, you want to go to your C3, and you want to edit. Obviously your shutter speed will be 1 over 48 because it's 6K 24 frames, and you want to go to your video settings and your movie mode and make sure you are shooting in 6.2K 3x2 2398 or 24 frames per second. Now when it comes to every other setting, they are pretty much exactly the same. When it comes to the microphone, when it comes to the autofocus and the white balance, those are changed based on whatever is happening in the environment around me. And 6K is basically your C3, which is you want to shoot a video that is horizontal, but you also want to reframe for vertical. Now, what is C4? C4 is the last custom dial that we have, and it is the last situation, which I don't use as much, to be completely honest, but it is the slow motion video footage. If you're a person who wants to capture slow motion footage, which is pretty much full HD, 120 frames per second, and you want to really slow things down way too much if you're capturing high-speed subjects, if you want to get ultra slow motion, then this is the mode for you. Now, a lot of people get confused when looking at 120 frames per second on Fujifilm cameras, so we are going to go through it together to show you how it's done. And always make sure to have the dial turned to whatever setting you want to change. So if you want to change your C4, make sure that you are on C4 on your XM5. Same thing as before, you want to go to your movie settings, you want to go to your edit custom settings, you want to go to C4 and you want to edit. Because we're shooting in 120 frames, we want to follow the double your frame rate rule. So your shutter speed will be 1/240 seconds. Now, go all the way up to your movie settings, and here's where things get a bit different. You want to ignore pretty much the movie mode, the shooting mode, the background defocus mode, and you want to go to high speed recording. And once you're in high speed recording, you want to turn this on and you want to set it to 16:9, full HD, 120p, 60p. What does this mean? Well, this means you're shooting in 120 frames per second, but when you play it back on the camera itself, it will be in 2x slow motion because it is in 60p. And that way you don't have to go through very slow footage. You can change your 60p to 24p, which will make it 5 times as slow, but that means when you press the play button to replay that video, it will be very slow and it will take a lot of time for you to go through that footage. Now, once you have your high-speed recording on, you want to make sure that obviously your media recording setting is also in H.265, 422, 10-bit, and 200 megabits per second. And pretty much everything else I don't really care about. I'm not getting audio in slow motion. This is a very niche and specific case where I need ultra slow motion. It is in full HD though, so please do note that if you do crop in, you are going to notice noise, you're going to notice the quality is degrading. So make sure to remember that your ultra slow motion will be in full HD. Now, in conclusion, these are the 4 video modes that I personally use in these 4 specific situations. To recap, C1 is my talking head, cinematic footage, 4K 24, when I don't want to waste a lot of memory and I just want to get some quick footage or talking head. My C2 is my 4K 60, which is my B-roll mode. It's basically everything B-roll that I want to get, either in the city or a product that I'm showcasing or a model or any moment. I do shoot in 4K 60 just because I can slow it down later on in post. C3 is my 6.2K open gate. It is basically when I do want to shoot footage that I will use later on for vertical content because I can then just reframe it and crop in pretty easily. And finally, my C4 situation, which is my ultra slow motion, is my full HD 120 frames per second slow-mo. And basically, if you're a person who shoots video content almost daily or every day, these are the 4 modes that I highly recommend that you shoot with. Make sure you have a good memory card. Shout out to ProGrade if you can get ProGrade cards. Link is in the description because those are my favorite cards ever and I've never had a single issue using ProGrade cards. But personally, I don't think you need more than these 4 settings if you're a content creator or a vlogger or a person who wants to do content on the regular. These are the 4 modes that you will need in niche and specific cases, and you will automatically know when to use these situations. And it is as easy as flicking a dial from C4 to C1 and you're ready to shoot. But that is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed my settings for the Fujifilm X-M5 on how to shoot better video and how to maximize the potential of your X-M5. Because if you are not using this camera as a pro level video camera or photo camera, you are genuinely missing out because this camera, in my opinion, is the best camera that Fujifilm came out with last year. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this informative video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.